good Friday morning. Feel good summer Friday. Boomer will be back on Monday. That means Jerry is back again. Good morning, Jerry. What's happening?
What's happening? 2 terrible baseball games last night. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
One manager I feel like might get fired. Good Lord. And another one, whatever. The Mets lost the series. But you got DeGrom on the mound. You're supposed to win. They didn't win.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a whatever they lost the series.
No, it is.
But really?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you why.
You're not going to beat the Braves every series.
I understand, but the reason why this was different was it was the first time that it had happened all year where they've lost a series within the division.
True.
So that was different. It is the team that has been chasing them the entire year that's pretty damn good because they won the World Series last year and they gained 2 games when you could have gotten a split with Jacob deGrom on the mound. It would have been no harm, no foul.
A small little infield ground ball that should be the third out of the inning turns out to be an RBI double. True.
Right, an RBI double with a guy scoring from first, and I don't know what the hell Brandon Nimmo is doing. I know he's playing deep in that situation, but it didn't look like he had any sense of urgency at all with getting to the ball and throwing the ball.
You know what? So you know what I thought of? No joke. When I'm watching this,
Yeah.
You know the old when you're coaching kids. What do they tell you? What do they tell the kids when they're out in the field?
Think about where you're going to go with the ball if it's hit to you. Yeah.
Here's why that's the biggest load of crap for any coach that's coming up. Because you don't know what's going to happen and you can't play 17 different scenarios in your mind. So that as an example, and I'm dumbing it down here, but you wonder what the hell Brandon Nimmo's doing. Perhaps Brandon Nimmo thinks, on a fly ball, the inning's over, base hit, I know he's going to go first to third, whatever. But here's what happens. Runners running on the pitch, ground ball, in your mind you're thinking, all right, well, he's going to go first to third. And all of a sudden, he doesn't go first to third. He never stops. So I'm sure that scenario was never played out in his head that on a little ground ball that routinely should be a second to first ground out, or if the shortstop with the shift grabs it, I mean, it's barely hit. There's no way in his mind he's ready for a slow roller and the runner is going to go first to home.
Yeah, exactly. I think he picks up that ball saying there's no shot.
Holy crap, he's running.
Right, exactly. Yeah, which is, to me, a bad play and something that cost them the game. Yeah, without a doubt.
Sure did.
So that's why it's definitely an annoying loss. Is it the biggest deal that the Mets have dealt with all year? Probably not, but this was an annoying loss because they didn't play all that well.
It is annoying. I agree.
And by the way, DeGrom, for the standard that he is, was not great last night. That third inning, I mean, he was leaving pitches over the plate. His slider wasn't working in that third inning. They were smacking him around. Then he ended up retiring a whole bunch in a row, and he got back on track. But, you know, the Mets don't score in the top half of the third when they have
first and third, nobody out.
Right, so they don't score there, and then the Braves come back in the bottom half, put a couple runs on the board. I know the Canna home run ends up tying it, but, I mean, this was just the Braves needed that game desperately to breathe more life into their chase in the NL East. And I felt like the Mets gave them that opportunity. That's why this was a bigger deal.
They did, but the Braves took it from them. I mean, like
they took it from
like,
in the first 2 games.
Yeah, no, but I mean that aggressive base running. That kid Grissom, I mean, was flying.
Yeah.
To me, that was an aggressive. We're going to win this game. Now you can say the Mets gave it to him, I suppose, and yes, Nimmo might have been sleeping a little bit. I don't know. I'd have to see an overhead shot to see how he really came in on the ball and how far back he was. But I thought that was a game the Braves went and took. It was 2-2. Even to get on base, it's a ground ball to the left. Think about the way they score. 2 out, nobody on. You get a ground ball that Beatty tries to cut off, pops out of his glove.
By the way, and I don't want to kill the kid. He did make a nice play and a big throw, and obviously he's looked good at the plate. But, I mean, that's a play Guillorme makes in his sleep.
I agree. That having been said, the next batter hits a routine, slow rolling ground ball, and they score what turns out to be the winning run.
Right.
And it's bizarre. It just. But again, I will go back to what you said. First and third, nobody out. You've got to push at least one runner. You have to. And they don't do it. And they didn't have a lot of opportunities last night. There wasn't much there.
And especially when we know that the Mets struggle to score most times with DeGrom on the mound, it felt like that again. It felt like another one of those situations. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you know, they gave Scherzer those 2 runs right away the night before. You felt like maybe they could jump on the Braves early again for DeGrom, and they didn't do it. And if you think about the Grissom running and how that worked out, first to home to score the game-winning run, and then what happened to the Mets in the top of the 9th inning where Lindor is running, and then Alonso with the pop-up, Lindor starts going back to first base, and then we get the force out at second because the ball drops.
Yep.
I mean, I can't blame anybody on that.
No, that's baseball, Susan.
Yeah,
that happens.
Right.
But I understand the point. I get it. The Braves, they've, 9 of 10 they've won now because it was an 8-game winning streak. Right, it's 8 games, so 9 of 10, 11, whatever it is, 10 of 11. They've had one of these runs again. The Mets have a weekend with the Phillies now. Go win some games. The whole thing about, and I know they're a little banged up. Maybe the Walker news wasn't as bad as we first thought. So, yes, they're a little banged up. I get it. But I will tell you, then you're right, that play at third base, perhaps Guillorme makes it. You're probably right. The kid's bat seems like is going to be live. Mm-hmm. So, as much as he's here and in the lineup, whether he was ready, he's not ready, offensively, he looks ready. So, I don't get the sense that losing Guillorme offensively is that much of a killer. The defense, I do agree with. They still have everything in front of them. And it's not like they've played terrible baseball. Last night, there were a couple of examples. I agree with you. But it's not like balls are going through there. This isn't the Angels and the mess they've become. No. It's not even, I know Keith approved, it's not the way the Phillies have played most of the year. That was just a couple of unfortunate plays they probably could have made. Not great. The thing that's different about this team for me, I'll come back to what I think even you've said in the past this season, is the manager's not going to let it unravel. And you go win a couple of games this weekend, you're fine.
I think that we've become spoiled watching this team, too, because they always bounce back. They always win that game last night, this year. So you become used to it, and I thought DeGrom on the mound, there's no way that they're losing it. They're getting a split.
I don't think that. Here's what I think.
They're getting a split,
Here's what I think when DeGrom's on the mound. Going to be a tight game.
Yeah.
He's going to keep it close, and let's see if this is one of those nights the Mets score for him or not. And they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. You get one swing. That's all they did last night. They did nothing for him.
Right. I don't know. I just felt like they broke out in that third game of the series, and I just thought that they were going to score some more runs. Fried hadn't pitched in a while after the concussion.
You mean the way the Yankees broke out 2 nights ago?
Yeah, right. But, hey, we were on that, though.
No, you're right.
We were on that. We were saying that this was more of an aberration than anything else. This was not going to be a catalyst. The team still sucked in that game that they came back and won, and they were terrible again last night. But about this Phillies series, I mean,
huge series.
Yeah, it is. It is a big series, and you got the doubleheader on Saturday, and you don't have DeGrom or Scherzer pitching in this series. They'll be lined up for the 2 games against the Yankees, and we don't know if Walker is going to pitch. You're going to be diving deep into the starting rotation, air quotes, depth that they have.
Yeah,
and this is going to be interesting, especially with a Phillies team that's been hot in their building. So they better hit this weekend. Like, there is no excuse for the offense to go in a hole because they're going to need them.
Well, you're going to need to win some games this weekend. You've got Atlanta playing Houston this weekend.
Yeah.
Listen, if the Mets end up losing 3 games this weekend and the Braves sweep the Astros, you got a real problem on your hands.
Yes.
I mean, the Astros fresh off scoring 21 runs yesterday.
Right.
This team has been outstanding all year long. There's no need to panic just yet. I mean, even Chipper Jones was on the other day with us, and he was talking about the Mets record in the NL East. He's like, it's unheard of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So at some point, they're not going to win every series inside the division. This one, they could have split. They didn't. You move on.
Yeah, you do move on. I'm just a little bit nervous about going into Philadelphia with basically the underbelly of your starting rotation. And that's what you're doing. You have Bassett, but then after that, I think it's Peterson in the first game, Trevor Williams in the second game.
Yes.
And then if Taijuan Walker can pitch on Sunday, he pitches.
Which I don't know how great I feel about that.
Right. I mean, even if he does pitch, what are we getting from him? And then God knows who's going to be his replacement. So it's a little bit of anxiety going into that series.
It is, but maybe your offense breaks out. Maybe this is the weekend where Pete Alonso returns to being Pete Alonso and is mashing the ball all over the place. And Francisco Lindor is hitting bullets. Maybe you're outscoring Philadelphia this weekend.
They need to hit. I mean,
I agree.
There's no excuse.
They're going nowhere if they don't hit. We know that.
Right, yeah. But this is a series where the offense is going to have to carry him, unless you get spectacular performances out of guys you wouldn't normally expect, like Peterson, like Trevor Williams, or whoever the hell is going to pitch on Sunday.
Which I wouldn't hang my hat on.
Yeah, exactly. And the team, if you want to panic, I mean, it's beyond panic time for the Yankees. They are brutal. It's tough. It's gotten to the point.
It's a bad watch.
It's gotten to the point now where it's like, what's the point in even going back to the game when they're down? I know they came back and it was dramatic with Donaldson, but seriously, Frankie, I heard them try to
Montas.
Is it Montas?
Watching the game last night, I heard Montas.
Yeah, and it's apparently Baseball Reference as Montas as well. But Frankie Montas, just brutal. And now you're thinking back to the deadline again and passing up. And I know that they were asking for a ton, but passing up on Luis Castillo in a year where you were the best team in baseball for month after month after month, and going to Montas, who was your second choice, and him being awful. And I understand that first start, the circumstances were tough for him because there was a death. His mother-in-law had passed away, and he just joined the team. And then the next day, they threw him on the mound. But after that, I mean, he has been brutal. And the one thing that scares you is if you look back at his season coming before he came to the Yankees, his road ERA was over 5. His home ERA was spectacular. So, and we all know how big of a canyon that ballpark is out in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
So, is this another Brian Cashman whiff at the trade deadline or bringing in a pitcher that hasn't worked out? I mean, last night was embarrassing for them. Embarrassing.
I agree. They had, I go to Yes before the game, maybe like 6:55 or so, whatever. Me and my son put the game on. And they're figuring that it's his family, clearly, because it certainly looked like his wife and the kids. And then they thought it was maybe his parents that were sitting there, and they had someone taking pictures of them. Oh, look how nice. And I forget what Kay said. He said something along the lines of, hopefully it's a sign of good things to come and turning things around tonight, and everyone's here for him. And then the first couple of innings were fine, right? It was the first two. What was the inning?
No, the second inning.
So the first inning. The first inning, it ends with the punch out.
Right.
All right, he's on it. And then, boy, oh, boy, he couldn't get anybody out.
I mean, George Springer, 3 hits against him, 5 on the night. I mean,
if you felt like Guerrero Jr. was toying with them last night.
Yeah, but basically, I know. And that's a team that, if they end up sweeping this series, all of a sudden, I guess they'd be 6 games back in the division. Right, of course.
It is on.
But, I mean, is it out of the realm of possibility that the Blue Jays sweep the Yankees here with the way that they've played?
No, the Yankees have lost 1 million games in the last month.
They're so bad right now. I mean, they are a shell of what they were in the beginning of the season, and it's really hard to see that. I guess overall, outside of last night, if you look in this terrible stretch, their starting rotation has not been that bad.
I said this yesterday. They've pitched well.
Yeah, they have. So that's a little bit of a positive. But, of course, offensively, there's been big struggles. The bullpen is a total mess. And you get a start like that last night, they've got no shot.
No, they have no bullpen right now and no offense. Other than that, things look good.
Yeah, right, seriously.
It's a problem. And you have forget the bullpen, you're back to the closer issue, if, in fact, you actually have a lead again in the 9th inning.
Yeah.
The problem right now when you sit down and watch them is you feel like getting on base is a struggle, and I know they had opportunities last night, but then the idea of driving runs in seems impossible for this group all of a sudden.
You know what it felt like last night, too, was blood in the water from the Blue Jays.
I agree. They were having a blast.
Right, like this team is reeling, and I can smell it.
Stepped on their throat last night.
And we have to knock them out. Like a boxer who sees a guy stumbling backwards and then all of a sudden attacks him while he's up against the ropes. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
That's still a 9-game lead, which is a significant lead when you're talking about August 19th or whatever.
That's the crazy thing about this, is that as bad as they've played, they feel like dead team walking. All of a sudden you're hearing Fire Boone chants loud enough to where he admits he hears it.
Yeah.
And you feel like this team is 8 games out, 9 games out, not 9 games up, and that change is coming. That's what it feels like right now.
So Aaron Boone doesn't strike me as the guy who can fix the big problem. He is someone that can keep things on track. He keeps things positive. When things are going well, the team is happy. But when things start to fall apart, his positivity and his optimism that he shows us publicly, that I'm sure he's doing privately in the clubhouse, I don't think works. I really don't think let's put a positive spin on everything that is going on right now works. He's too low energy. He's too even-keeled. He's not someone that I think is going to inspire any sort of comeback in the team. He's not someone who's going to call that team meeting or whatever. Not that works all the time, but he's not going to be that guy that's going to throw the chair and be like, all right, we suck. figure it out. This is embarrassing. We're the New York Yankees. What the hell is going on? It's basically like, we'll get back on track. We needed that one. We'll try a little bit harder if we get a couple. He referenced like the last 10 days in his post-game news conference last night. It hasn't been 10 days. It's been since early July that this team has been awful.
5 weeks.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Let's get some self-awareness here and figure this out.
Yeah, but I guess the problem with that is now here's where you're a good manager, bad manager, fiery manager, soft manager, players manager. Joe Torre wasn't like that. And, and they went through stretches. Then they went through a lot. There were years there where we thought that George was going to fire him.
Yeah, you're right. But I do think that, don't you feel like Joe Torre being the old school guy that he was, that when things were going in the wrong direction, that in his own way, he made it clear that it was unacceptable.
The way I always looked and viewed Joe Torre, and I was never in that clubhouse, but from talking to Sweeney and talking to other guys, I always got the sense Torre had a very personable approach, one-on-one with the stars, and was able to pull their strings the right way.
Yeah.
And manage them as people to get the best out of them, as opposed to this guy that's going to throw chairs and scream and yell. And he kind of had a different way of managing. That's how I always took that. I don't know. I'm not sure. And I don't know Aaron Boone. What I do know about Aaron Boone is when he's got to back his players on the field, he has done so.
Yeah.
But this is not acceptable. And as we talked yesterday, they get LeMahieu back in the starting lineup. As bad as it is, and they're banged up, we know this. You still have LeMahieu, Judge, Rizzo, Donaldson, Benintendi. I know they're, in some cases, a little bit older. You got to do better than this.
Oh,
you
sure.
can't be putting up a run a game.
Right. Well, Judge is in the worst stretch of the season. Benintendi has been awful since he's gotten here. Rizzo is in his worst stretch of the year. I mean, he's low 200s now with batting average.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and LeMahieu really hasn't been the same player since his first year as a Yankee. So, I mean, it sounds great. Right? It sounds great, but these guys haven't performed.
Well, and that's the point I made yesterday. I'm not asking them to score 9 runs a game.
Yeah.
You got to put up 3, 4, 5 runs and give your starting pitchers a chance.
Yeah, the rest of this weekend is going to be really interesting with them.
Because this is a team that's going to score.
Of course. I mean, they are right now, the Blue Jays, what the Yankees are not at this very moment, which is, and I know they haven't been great throughout the season, but it's like that young, energetic, they feel like they're going in the right direction, where it seems like the Yankees take the field every night and think they're going to lose.
At least we do.
Yeah, I mean, yes,
we do.
We certainly do. All right, it is Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.